All right. Welcome to the Event Space channel, the channel that we talk all things event space, from startup, operations, management, contract, marketing, digital marketing, and all the things that kind of scrambled up in our heads that we don't know about, right? If that checks any of the boxes that you're interested in, be sure to subscribe to this channel. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about inspections and what they look for in an inspection and how the process goes, and just some of the things that they look for when they come out, the checks and balances that they have to go through. We're going to be talking a little bit about that today in this video right now. All right, guys. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking a little bit about, some of the things that the inspectors look for when they're coming out to approve your event space. Now, let's face it, when they're coming out to approve your event space, every county is different, right? You could be in a county right next door and it could be a different requirement from that county and from the county that you're in. Okay. So that's one of the things that we need to realize. A person that may have been open for a couple of years now, okay, a couple counties away, may have different requirements, even though you're in the same state. And requirements change all the time. So someone who has possibly opened up 2 years ago may have had different requirements from, what you're going through right now or what you're about to go through. So that's one. So I want you guys to know that. The next thing is typically, depending on the county, again, it could be either the Department of Buildings or the Department of Planning or the fire department actually, who actually designates the certificate of occupancy, which tells us who and how many people we can let into our space, okay? And how to utilize the space, the purpose of the space, all of those things. And as we go through that process, they have a system where they have their checks and balances that they have to actually follow and abide by in order for them to give us that permission, that C of O and those permits in order for us to move forward, right? So that's what we're going to be talking a little bit about today. What the typical inspection, fire inspection, buildings department inspection would look like. Because in some counties, it's the building department who will give you the certificate of occupancy. And in other counties, it's the fire department that can give you the certificate of occupancy. And it can range. It can also be like the planning department. The planning department could be the buildings department. Again, it really depends on the state. It depends on the county. Okay, so let's go. The first one that they're going to look for possibly, okay, is for the emergency exit. Sometimes they want to have the push bars as well. So the panic push bars, all exit doors, a lot of times, especially now these days, they're requiring functioning panic bars, okay, that allows you to get out quickly. They want quick egress. If something happens, it's a fire, if there's a electrical fire or something that happens during the event, they want people to be able to get out without the need of a key or special knowledge. So you can't be punching in codes and stuff like that when there's a fire, okay? You're going to have people be able to get out. So a lot of times I see people I see inspectors requesting that there's a panic push bar. Those bars that you push and the big doors open, that's a bar along, maybe midway along the door. That's a panic push bar. And a lot of times I'm seeing these being required these days, okay? Clear exit paths. So ensure that the exit paths are not obstructed and are clearly marked. Okay, so it can't be your storage, the area where you're having all of your storage, your tables, your chairs, your boxes, your paper towels and stuff like that. That cannot block the means of egress. Okay, so if that's the plan that you have in your head, that okay, I'm going to store my stuff here, even though it kind of blocks the way that people can exit, maybe you have a third or fourth means of egress, it cannot be blocked, okay? So it has to have a clear exit path. Also, exit signage is what they look for as well. So illuminated exit signs, the ones that they have with the battery backups are good. They should also be visible above all emergency exit and exits, okay? The next thing that they look for is fire extinguishers. fire extinguishers, they should have their tags and they should have their certifications. A lot of times, a lot of counties, they require people to come out, companies to come out to ensure that your fire extinguisher is working correctly, and they have to inspect it, and they'll put the tags and the dates and all that stuff on. So they want that. They want it to be clear and visible. They want it to be up to date, and they want the tag inspection to clarify its functionality as well. Okay. There's different types of potential fire extinguishers, so you would have to make sure that you are in compliance with that particular type. But they will have the ones also at Home Depot that's, you know, like this, and that might not be the one that they are referring to maintain that compliance. Okay. Emergency lighting. Battery operated lighting should be installed to illuminate the routes in case of a power failure. So in case of something happens, right, you should have something, maybe something that's battery operated. Maybe you can get something that's a glow in the dark. Have you guys ever seen a glow in the dark pathways where as soon as the lights are off, it just glows so you can actually see it? That may suffice. You may ask them, hey, instead of doing the battery operated lighting, can I do the glow in the dark? You know, a lot of them will say yes, some will say no. And it may not be even required for some. It depends on the space, it depends on the amount of people, how big the space is, all of those things. Also testing, okay? They want to confirm that the lights function properly during the inspection. So if you have to have the battery operated lighting to ensure that, you know, people could see and stuff like that, they want to make sure that these things work, okay? The next one is the fire alarms and sprinkler systems. Now, everybody does not have a sprinkler system. It depends on the commercial property, right? The fire alarm systems is a functional fire alarm system that meets the local fire codes. And a lot of times it's required. They're going to want to see the fire alarm system up to date, and they're going to want to see that it works properly. Okay. The sprinklers, if required, like I said, they're not in all commercial properties. Sometimes you might get a commercial property and it may say, in order to get your permit, you have to add a sprinkler system, which is okay. So that's one of the things that you need to look for when you are trying to get a commercial property. Okay. Is that sprinkler system required? Because if it's not in there, that's going to cost money. And that's one of the things I talk about in my course. Like, before you actually go out and get these spaces, make sure they have certain criteria, they meet certain criteria. Okay. But anyway, their sprinkler system has to be installed. They have to be tested and well maintained. Okay. The occupancy load and signage. So usually when you go into a space, a supermarket, a commercial property, a movie theater, they'll have something that says the occupancy sign. They'll say, oh, well, this has a max occupancy of 72 or 100 people or whatever it is. It has to be visible near the main entrance. Okay. And also, capacity compliance. The event space layout should allow for the approved occupancy without overcrowding. Have you ever been in an event space and it's sectioned off? Like, they'll have a section for this, a section for that. Different sections may require different occupancies. It depending on the actual county. You just never know. Okay. The next one is electrical panels. You know, the electrical panels, I don't call it electrical panels. I call it a blowout box, but you know what I'm talking about. The box they have, you could switch on and switch off the power. So those must be accessible. They can't be covered by any decorations. Okay. So you may want to put a sign, do not cover. Okay. It has to be labeled and obstruction free. Okay. Also, the wiring, they may want you to make sure the wiring is up to code. No exposed wiring, no overloaded circuits. Okay, it has to all make sense. The HVAC system, they may want to confirm that the heating, ventilation, air, and air conditioning systems are functioning properly. Okay. Let's talk about fire doors. Okay. They may want to know that they have self-closing mechanisms. The fire rated doors have self-closing mechanisms, and they have to also remain unobstructed. So you can't block any of the doors. Okay. The doors have to be in good condition according to the fire rating. A lot of the doors these days, guys, they want them to be, what do you call it? Depending on how big the space is and when the county you're in, it has to be a fire retardant door. So to block any of the, like when you go out, the fire can't follow you, you know. So a lot of times they may require that as well. General safety requirements like first aid kits, signage, no smoking. They may ask for that. Hazardous materials must be labeled and clear on supplies. If you have any supplies that has hazardous, maybe not. If you have a kitchen, that's functional, if you have a kitchen that's a hooded kitchen and you are a catering service or something like that as well, the hooded systems, if it's a commercial kitchen, a duct system, that should be cleaned and operational. And you have to have, a lot of counties require them to be cleaned on a regular basis, okay, according to the county standards. So in order to be in operation, you know, and that ties into the food and health side of things. But you see how things, one entity ties into another entity, right? Grease traps and all that stuff, it has to be well maintained. The fire suppression system has to be well maintained. Next, you want to make sure that all of your inspection reports, and you have copies of all of that. All of your inspection reports, all of your certificates and your permits are visible, okay, and clearly recognizable, and make sure they're not covered, okay. Maintain your good records, and also your C of O application. I would also have that on hand as well, just in case if something happens, you know, if you print it out or whatever the case is. I would also have that, you know, just on hand. And lastly, guys, make sure that you have your means of egress. Don't get a space that has one means of egress. A means of egress is not a window. It is not a window. Okay, so you make sure that you have at least 2 means of egress. Sometimes they require more than 2, okay, depending on your certificate of occupancy and how many people are there, because you got to think about it, right? They have to be able to get out if there's a fire, if something happens, right? It has to make sense. So make sure this all makes sense, guys, before you sign the lease. Don't sign a lease and it doesn't have, and you haven't checked with your fire department, planning department, department of buildings, whoever it is that signs off on that C of O, on those permits, okay? Make sure and it has the things that's required in order for you to start. Because the last thing you want to do is to get a space, sign off of it, give all your money for your security deposits and your first and your rent, and then they tell you, nope, you can't have it here. Nope, you can't do that, and you're stuck in a 2, 3, 5 year lease. Right. Check out my course, guys. My name is Z of Build the Business You Love. I have a course that teaches you how to start, operate, and manage an event space. It teaches you all of the things, okay, that you need to ask and just to be aware of, just to be conscious of, because, you know, people are going into this blind because, you know, these gurus out here saying you could just look into a window and then sign a lease and get a commercial space, and there's so much more to that. So much more to it than that. Be sure to check out my freebie. Also, I have a freebie bundle that talks about, you know, event space ownership and is it for you, as well as an event space calculator, the startup calculator, so you can kind of put in all of your numbers and see, you know, how much money you would need to start. All of that stuff is inside of that free bundle. But the course, guys, if you're ready to get in deep, okay, into figuring out what it is that you would need to get started, what it is that you need to operate, what it is that you need to manage, and grab that course, okay? I'm Zia, Build the Business You Love, and I hope this helps someone. Later.